Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar. Always a good idea to do a sound check in these things. So, could you please just give me a heads up? Let me know that you're able to hear me and that we are good to go into the content of the webinar. Yes, all good, great. Thank you, everyone. That's fantastic. Okay, so it sounds like the audio is absolutely working. Okay, so my name's Nigel Polak. And today's webinar is on this question of feeling like you are enough. It's not just incredibly common. I'd say it's all pervasive throughout people to either have a pervasive sense of not being enough, or to certainly have times when they're not feeling enough. And it's really interesting for me. Today, I've been doing something that's not connected with my job, and it hasn't gone well. And I'm definitely feeling I'm not enough around that particular activity. So, firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands upon which we meet today, and to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I extend my respects to the Gumbaynggirr peoples, upon whose lands I'm currently sitting, and I will extend a warm welcome to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present with us here today. Welcome. So, as I said, my name's Nigel. I'm a psychological coach with Uprise, which means that I do psychotherapy, I do counselling, I do coaching. I've got a background in psychology, and so I speak to a lot of people on a daily basis through webinars such as this, through trainings, and through face-to-face counselling and other group work. And so very familiar with the challenges that people experience day to day and in the longer term. Please post any questions you have or any comments you have in the chat. I do like webinars to be interactive, so the more that you can get involved, the more enjoyable and the more satisfying the webinar will be for you. In terms of adult learning, the evidence is really clear. We learn very little when we're passive recipients of information. We like to be passive recipients of information. Our short-term memory will try to convince us that everything that we hear right now we will remember, but we know that that's not how it works, and that actually if we get involved and participate and be proactive in our learning, then things sink in. So be proactive, get involved. Whether you're just doing things at home and writing things down, there's a lot of writing down in any kind of psychological work. So write it down at home, or if you feel willing and open enough, please just drop your responses in the chat. Maybe do both. So this is sort of the starting point and the end point for today's webinar. This is a quote from the Buddha. Who knows if it's a genuine quote from the Buddha, because who knows what Buddha or Jesus, like that, people like that actually said. But this is what's been accredited to him, and this actually reflects and parallels modern psychology. And what modern psychology has found is that a lot of the tenets and understandings of Buddhist psychology, once verified through scientific method, turn out to be pretty accurate. And so this is the philosophy. What you think, you become. So the thoughts you have will then become that will form the person that you are. What you feel, so the feelings that you have, the idea here, the sort of the metaphysical idea is that you have a resonance, that you then vibrate, if you like, at a frequency, and that frequency resonates with other things out there in the world, including other people, for the most part, other people. And so whatever you feel, that is what comes to you, and what you imagine, you create. And so what this quote is talking to is the significance of our internal state on both our future and the world around us, the world that we find ourselves in. So what you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create. And so this brings us then to the thoughts. The thoughts that end up becoming true. And the sorts of self-critical thoughts that we're talking about in a webinar on this question of I'm not enough, or are you enough, are thoughts that tend to go, I'm not blank enough, or I'm too blank, or I'm such a blank, or nobody blanks me. And these are super common thoughts. And the invitation for a webinar like this, and where we're going to go next right now, is to tune into these thought processes of your own. Sometimes it's tempting to look at other people and go, oh, I know someone who does that. And the reason we do that is because it's psychologically safe. It's much psychologically safer for us to look at other people than it is to sort of be willing to examine ourselves. And yet the real growth and the real development and the real change will only come if we apply it to ourselves. So what's yours? Like I said, I pull up a bit of paper, just start taking some notes. We've got a couple more slides where we're going to sort of drill down into this. But what are the thoughts that plague you? I remember from growing up in a private, I did grow up in a private boys' school because I was a boarder at a boarding school, and so surrounded by teenage boys all the time. And it was a very kind of, obviously masculine environment, heaps of teenage testosterone flying around. But the things that people would say are things like loser, or tosser, or references to masturbation and things like that. Terrible stuff. But this was the language, and it was all pervasive and it was all around. So for me, it wasn't so much sort of being at home, but it was this language of school and what people would say. And so for decades later, and even now, I get this, you're such a, it just comes out of nowhere in the back of my mind. You're such a, I'll swear because it's accurate. You're such a wanker. You're such a dickhead. You're such a jerk. You're such a loser. And then what happened at my school was that the word loser was being abandoned about so much, it got banned. But the biggest thing at the day, I'm not sure how big it is nowadays. It's still, I think, quite big with teenagers, but it was sarcasm. And so people would start to say winner. And if you were a winner, it meant you're a loser. And so I can get this thought, you're a winner. But for me, it doesn't mean you're a winner. Yay. It means you're a loser. So what's your thought? What comes to you? And I've got on the next slide a few examples that help us drill down into this. And I know it's painful. I know it doesn't. I know it doesn't feel good. It's like, I don't want to go there. What are you talking about? And hopefully I'm modeling a little bit of vulnerability to show that it's okay. All right. What's yours? Write it down. I'm not blank enough. I'm not good enough, smart enough, clever enough, pretty enough, good looking enough, skinny enough, strong enough, useful enough. Yeah. So I was talking about the thing that I was doing earlier today. I was working on a lawnmower. I've got a lot of lawns. Got to mow the lawns. But I am crap with machines. And so as this lawnmower was going from a state of bad to worse, the more that I tried to fix it, the more this thought came, oh my God, I'm so crap with machines. I'm so crap with machines. I'm so crap with machines. And that, if I think about what that quote from Buddha, well, guess what I'm creating in my world? I'm creating in my world this experience of things going badly with machines. And I can feel it, like it's filled with shame and angst and fury when things were sort of at their peak and going wrong with me trying to sort this. It had broken down in a large, not a large paddock, but in a paddock, and it was going to rain, so I had to get it out from under cover, and it just all went wrong. And so then my partner said, "Oh, well, why didn't you ask for help?" And I just was like, oh, nobody wants to help me, and you don't care. You're off there doing the cooking in the kitchen, and I was out there. Wow, the rage. And she's like, whoa, not fair, not about me. I was just doing my thing. You could have just asked me for help and I would have come and helped. I was like, in my zone. So we all get like that around our own thing. What's your thing? I'm too ugly. I'm too overbearing. I'm too out of control. For some people, it's I'm too much. I'm too much. What about I'm such a? I'm such an idiot. I'm such a failure. I'm such a loser, I'm such a jerk? Or is yours a nobody? Nobody loves me, nobody likes me, nobody wants me, nobody needs me, nobody cares about me. These are all common thoughts. What we do in therapy a lot of the time is we help people identify these words, these thoughts, and then we help them to identify what these thoughts do, because these thoughts have consequences, and the consequences are. I'll go back a slide. The consequences are feelings of shame, of insufficiency, of failure, of inadequacy, and then going into frustration and anguish and rage. And if it's allowed to spiral, it will then spiral into an anxiety disorder, panic attacks, and depression. So these are really, really debilitating ways to think. Very quiet in the chat. Let me know where you're up to, whether you're connecting with what I'm saying, or you're going, oh, this seems left field. I'm not really sure where this is going. Just share what's going on for you. Okay, so why do we do this? So essentially, there's a gap. There's a gap between what I feel, or what I think, or what I believe I'm supposed to be, due to my beliefs, my standards, my expectations of myself, and my perception of myself. Yeah, thanks for that feedback. This is really good. That this is something so I have a belief. That I hate. Someone said, "Don't worry, I hate my lawnmower too." So I have a belief about how I'm supposed to be. Yeah, and I'll talk about this is the next slide. You see, the next slide is, where does this come from? I have a belief about where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be good with machines because you know what? My dad could fix stuff. Yeah. And a lot of the blokes that I know can fix stuff. And they go, yeah, that's the carburetor. Or you've got a problem with your exhaust. Or it's the blah, blah, blah manifold. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm inadequate then, aren't I? So where has it come from? Has it come from your school environment? Yeah. Has it come from the classroom? You know, people often have experiences with teachers where teachers leave them feeling dumb. Yeah. So has it come from the classroom? On the right-hand side, you've got the hands praying in the symbol of and sort of churches and mosques in the background. So many of our beliefs come from our religions. Yeah, religions have high expectations about how you're supposed to be, and severe consequences. Yeah, if you don't act in the way that the Bible says, then you will go to hell. Serious consequences for not living up to expectations. What about family? Yeah, what about family? What expectations did your family have of you? My mum thought I was a genius. She thought that I was one out of the box. And I was pretty smart, did all right, but I was no genius. So what happened was that I would do pretty well, but I'd feel like a failure because I wasn't the smartest or the best or the top. So there were these expectations that seemed so banal. You know, great, mum thinks their child's wonderful. Of course, that's fantastic. Was it stuff that happened to you when you were a baby, so small that it's even pre-memory? Expectations about how you're supposed to be in the world with other people. Were you bullied in the schoolyard? Like me, those voices coming in from the outside. So you've developed these expectations of how you're supposed to be, and then you experience yourself in the world, and what you experience in the world is a mismatch for those expectations. So then on to the consequences. You have these. I'll just read some stuff from the chat. I had a very large project to finish a month or so ago, and it was a big success. But I mucked up something at work the day afterwards, so it kind of ruined the big project win. Like it cancelled itself out. So there's this really big thing that went super well, and this little thing that didn't go so well, and that was the thing that dominated. Absolutely, I get that. I've got heaps of great stuff going on in my life. But tell you what, that mower has managed to ruin at least a day for me. No, not the mower. I've let my beliefs about me and the mower ruin my day. Someone said, I know I naturally put expectations on myself and I get frustrated when things don't go right or the way that I have planned it in my head. Yeah, we have a picture of how things are supposed to be, and reality doesn't fit the picture. I'll say a little bit about that. There's a theorist, and one of the dominant theorists in psychotherapy and counselling is a guy called Carl Rogers, and his model is exactly that. And there's language that goes with it that's called self-actualizing. When we hear self-actualizing, we tend to think, oh, it's a bit like enlightenment. But actually, if you think about self-actualizing, what it actually means is that it means, and this is his entire therapy, the idea is to close the gap between the way I believe I should be and the way that I actually experience myself in the world. And we can do that by either getting closer to our expectations, so actually trying harder, working harder, striving more, setting goals and meeting those goals. Or we can do it by changing our expectations. Either way, it doesn't matter. The experience is the same. It's an experience of being satisfied, of being good enough, of being sufficient to be me with the people that I'm with in the world around me. Someone says, my parents were always strict since I was a child, and their criticizing voices are still echoing in my brain, even though I don't live with them anymore. Absolutely. That stuff that people say, all of these sources, just spins around. And sometimes it's even stuff that we started saying to ourselves at one point in time. One of the fascinating things about it is that, and this is kind of a big insight, is that there's these awful voices. And there's a new approach that's been developed. They call it internal family systems, IFS, internal family systems therapy. And what it does is it says, well, let's talk to that voice, that voice that says, you're a loser, you're an idiot, you're such a, all right, let's talk to it. And let's ask it, let's have a conversation. And then every time you have a conversation with it, you say, people are like, I don't want to talk to that. That's awful, it's mean, that's horrible, it's critical. And you talk to it and you go, well, what are you trying to do? Why are you here? And the voice always goes, I'm trying to help. And you're like, what? You're not helping. Yeah, I'm trying to motivate you. I'm trying to make you better. It's like, oh, interesting, because you know what? It's really not working. What it's doing is it's creating anxiety, shame, stress, fear, isolation. If I fear that I'm not good enough, I won't go to work, or I won't go to the party, or I won't reach out and talk to that pretty guy, or that pretty girl, that handsome guy. I will isolate myself. I become lonely. If I feel like I'm not enough, I become distressed. I worry that other people are going to judge me. Probably they're not. It's me that's judging me. You should be good at fixing mowers because you're a bloke and your dad was good at fixing mowers. You should. It becomes depressing. People self-harm because that kind of, that idea of trying to fight your way out of a paper bag. It's a paper bag you can't fight your way out of. I'm not good enough, but I try harder. But you're still not good enough because the voice says so. But I try harder, but I'm not good enough. It hurts. People overeat. They gamble their lives away. All of these ones towards the bottom are ways of attempting to discharge that discomfort. Drinking, drug taking, bad relationships, seeking some sort of validation of self through sexual activity. These are all very common natural consequences, but they're really, really harming. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes to look at solutions. What do we do about this? How do we deal with these thoughts? A good starting point is the Uprise module. So Uprise, most of you will be able to access the Uprise modules. If you're not, get on the HR team and tell them to sign up with Uprise. So the way Uprise works is that we offer coaching, counselling, psychological support, mostly over the phone, usually in short coaching bursts. But it's designed to go alongside with our app and with the large range of modules within the app. And the idea is that you go into the app and you pick and choose what's relevant for you, or you can talk to one of the coaches and they'll point you towards one of the modules that's relevant for you. And one of our modules is around not feeling good enough, and it takes you through sort of this theory that I've talked you through, but it also takes you through a process of starting to challenge that belief that I'm not enough. So the first thing to do is to get perspective. A number of ways of getting perspective. First way to get perspective is to imagine that there was someone else in your shoes, or imagine if there's someone else talking to you about this situation, someone who's friendly towards you, or someone that you feel friendly towards. So if my best friend was having trouble with a mower, what would I say to them? I'd say, if it happened to anyone, these things are a bugger, and you're doing your best. And look, this is why we have service repair people. Go find someone to fix it. Don't get all wrapped around the axles. So what would you say to a best friend? Or what would that, if your parents were critical, did you have a kindly grandmother? Did you have a kindly teacher? Was there someone in your life that you felt cared for by? And everyone has someone. Everyone has someone. And you can ask yourself, well, what would they say about this situation? So if I was to ask pretty much anyone, I think, about that, they'd say, well, it doesn't matter. Who cares? It's just a mower. Or whatever the situation is. Yeah, you mucked up at work. Okay, everyone mucks up at work. That's fine, do better. Another one that I've heard more recently is to imagine your favorite superhero. Yeah, and this one's quite funny, actually. I'm not sure who my favorite superhero would be. But I sort of makes me laugh because the first one I thought of was Wolverine. And I thought, well, because the question is, well, what would Wolverine do in this situation? So in my imagination, just that second, I literally had Wolverine with his claws destroying the lawnmower. It's like, so I don't think I'd do what Wolverine would do. What would any other superhero do? Well, they'd get someone else to fix it, unless it was Tony Stark, in which case he'd turn it into a super speed nuclear powered lawnmower that would do the whole thing in 5 minutes. So get perspective. Change your thinking. So one thing we know about thinking is that we can't stop our thoughts. Look, it's something that at a technical level you can debate. If you've done enough mindfulness meditation, you sort of might have developed an ability. I did it at a certain point, develop an ability to sort of, put my finger, like an imaginary finger at that point where that thought was coming from, and going, you know what, I'm not going to let you in. But that actually takes quite a lot of mental effort. Interestingly enough, it's a lot easier to change your thinking, to change your thinking. And if your thinking is, for example, is I'm not enough, then the shift is into I'm enough. The hard part for the brain is that it needs to be true as far as your mind is concerned. So if you're going to change your thought, you need to find a new thought that's more true. And so this is a lot of the work of cognitive behavioral therapy. You identify the thought, you challenge the thought, and challenge the thought. Next, you sort of attempt to negate that thought with evidence, and then you change the thought. You come up with a new thought that's at least as true, if not more true, than the previous thought, but that serves you. The language that it was originally used in cognitive behavioral therapy, it's been changed now to positive, negative, but I don't think that's as helpful. But the language that used to be used was adaptive and maladaptive. And adaptive thinking is thinking that supports you to achieve your goals. Maladaptive thinking is thinking that gets in the way of achieving your goals. I always like to think of a surgeon. It's really interesting because, for a surgeon, adaptive thinking is it's a good thing to take a sharp object and slice open another human being. For the rest of us, that's maladaptive thinking. But for a doctor or a surgeon, that's adaptive thinking. It says, yes, this is a good thing. This is important. I need to do this. It's not gross. It's not disgusting. It's not evil. It's not bad. This is something that's really helpful to other people. So that's adaptive. So figuring out what's true for you, but also helps you move towards your goals. Because the issue really with all of these thoughts is not that they're not true. That's neither here nor there. What happens is that they get in the way of us being able to live the kind of life that we want to live. Okay, I'm just going to read something else from the chat. This says, this is hard. This person says, this is hard. Our anxiety holds us back physically and mentally, and it isn't easy to stop being this way. Personally, I'm trying really hard to step out of my comfort safe zone of what I've been so used to doing and break that subconscious repetition by making little changes. It has been working and my confidence is growing in baby steps. It all helps. I still get anxiety, but it's not so stressful, not so overwhelming. Absolutely. And this is the way we almost have to do things. Sometimes we make big changes in our lives, but most of the time we just need to make little changes in little areas that move us in the right direction. And one of the really fascinating things I think about this is that we can be at a point in our life where we go, this is what I need to think, this is what's important for me, this is how I need to do things. But actually, and then that's great, and it works for a while, but then something happens in life, something changes, and we go through very natural life cycles, like finishing school, going to uni, finishing uni, getting a job, meeting a partner, becoming committed to that partner, having children, becoming parents, and thought processes that served us in previous life stages will no longer serve us further down the track. And so we're in this constant process of having to change. Another quote from the Buddha is that the only constant in change, the only constant in life is change itself. That's the only thing that you can be guaranteed will change. Okay, so we've talked a bit about challenging your beliefs, finding evidence, and the other good tip is to imagine yourself without the thoughts. So if your thoughts come up in a particular scenario, I've used the lawnmower, but for most of us, it's in an intimate relationship or a conversation with our boss, very often in the workplace, and we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling insufficient. What you can do is you can reimagine yourself in that scenario. So you imagine yourself in that scenario, you feel those feelings. A good way to identify the thoughts is to go, okay, what's the feeling that I felt? What did I think just before I felt that feeling? Because often we say, oh, the boss said this, and that's why I felt that way. It's not true. The boss said whatever they said. The lawnmower just did what the lawnmower did. And that wasn't the thing that bothered me. It was the thought about myself in response. That's the thing that caused the emotional response. And so what's the thought? And what if I imagine myself in that situation without the thought? Well, if I imagine myself in that situation without the thought, it would just be me and the lawnmower and something that needed to be done, a task that I had to go through to get to the other side. In order to be able to mow the lawn eventually, I'd need to go through this process. And I would have got it done. And you know what? I made a fatal mistake. And I probably made a fatal mistake that caused a lot more problems for myself because I was so rattled. And if I would reimagine myself without that thought, I would have been clearer thinking and I would have been more able to cope. So what you think you become, what you feel you attract, what you imagine you create. So imagine yourself, without the thought. Imagine yourself with a different thought, And it's a really good thing to do. Imagine yourself in a situation with the thought, I am not enough. You feel small, you shrink, you feel ashamed, you want to retreat. And then imagine yourself in that same situation with the thought, I am enough. And everything changes. You feel present, you feel it within yourself, you feel alive, you feel ready to connect, you feel open. And then what you feel, you attract. So you attract openness, you attract connection. I think we'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate your time today. If you need help, please reach out to Uprise. And yeah, you can talk through things like this with your coach. If there's any other questions, I'll take them. But otherwise, thanks very much for your time today.
Thanks, Nigel, for that. And hope to see you all next webinar.
Thanks, Larry. Bye, everyone.